Hello and welcome back to the Power Bra Sew Along. I'm Sarah and I work with Green Style Creations and I blog at sewingwithsarah.com, and I'm excited to have you back today as we get started on the construction of our Power Bras. So yesterday we talked about the supplies that you would need. We went over the different options that the Power Bra has, and we also talked about fitting and how to measure yourself. And then finally at the end we cut out our fabric. So hopefully you have that done today. Now I want to go ahead and reassure you, if you haven't gotten to that or you're catching these videos later, don't worry. These videos will always be available on my blog, sewingwithsarah.com. They'll always be linked in the Fabric Fairy group. There'll always be something that you can find if you're needing to go at your own pace this week. If you can keep up, that's great, because I'm available to you this week in terms of answering questions, but you can always feel free to give me a tag, send me a message, ask a question in the Green Style Facebook group if you're following along later, or if you need to set the bra aside and come back to it. Don't let it go in that UFO pile though. Make sure that it stays, because you'll be so happy when you get one done and you'll want to make more, I promise. So today we're going to get started with the construction of the front of our bra. Now, to make this as user-friendly as possible, I've divided the sew along up. Yesterday's video in terms of supplies and fitting and cutting applies to everyone, and today's video will apply to everyone regardless of which option you're sewing. But after today, I'm going to be posting different videos depending on where you're at, and which, not depending on where you're at, excuse me, depending on which option you're sewing. So that way you don't have to sit through all the instructions that pertain to another option. Everything today is pretty much going to pertain to all the options. So everyone needs to watch this video, but starting tomorrow, you're going to want to zero in on, the specific option that you're making so that you can follow along with the instructions for that. But I still want everyone to post those comments. I still want you to ask me questions, post progress photos, and let me know how you're doing. So if you're ready to get started, we'll dive down. Like I said, we're going to be sewing the front together today, and just kind of prepping the rest of our bra so that we can continue smoothly for the rest of the week. So I'm going to take you down my cutting table and we'll get started. So what I want you to do now is get out a few of your pieces. I want you to get out the, from your main fabric, the center front and the side front pieces. There should be one center front cut on the fold and two side front pieces cut as mirror images. And then I also want you to get out your lining pieces. Now, if you haven't already, you're going to want to, and you're using power mesh, you're going to want to base that power mesh to the lining of your, this is your lining piece. You base it to the wrong side of your lining piece. Now the power mesh doesn't usually have a right side and a wrong side, but the lining usually does. Sometimes it's hard to tell on activewear fabrics. I would use whichever one you like the best, but based it to the wrong side. So this is the right side of my lining. And I just went around and did at about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch. It doesn't have to be perfect. You want to stay inside the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance so that your basting doesn't show when you're done. But you're going to want to do that on the center front power mesh and lining. Now remember, the power mesh is an option, but if you are using it, you're going to want to do this. And both of those side front pieces, okay? Basting them together. Now, if you haven't already, you do want to remember at this point to trim off 1/4 inch from the bottom of your lining pieces, okay? I would do that before you base the power mesh on if you're going to be doing that. You can always do that at the end, but it's just easier to do it now when the pieces are nice and flat. So go ahead and get out your main outer front and your outer side pieces. And you're going to want to, it looks like these aren't going to fit together, but take them and place them right sides together. And I like to place a clip here at the bottom. And then a clip, there's a notch. You want to place a clip at the notch. And then you're going to bring this top over. And there's going to be a little, the pattern calls a dog ear, sticking up here. I don't know if you can see that very well. From the side front, sticking up a little bit beyond the main front, so that when you sew at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, it's going to line up perfectly. And then I just kind of stretch this just a tiny bit, and that curve should match up. Okay, so you're going to want to do that for the side front on one side and the side front on the other side. Okay, and then you're also going to want to do it for your lining, which now has the power mesh basted to it. Now, it didn't mention, if you're a beginner seamstress, you might not be familiar with the term basting. It's just basically a long straight stitch without a back tack. Okay, so you're not starting and stopping your stitches by going back and forth. You're just going to be using 4.5 to a 5 millimeter long stitch and just kind of going all around the edges because it's just temporary. It's just there to hold those things together. Okay, if you're a beginner and you're sewing and I say something that you're not familiar with, please let me know. I really want these sew-alongs to be friendly for the beginner seamstress. So you've got your side front pieces onto the front. You're going to sew with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. If you're doing it with a sewing machine, make sure you use a lightning bolt or a stretch stitch. If you're doing it with a serger, your serger is going to be fine. Do the same thing with the lining. So right sides together. I'm going to do that same thing, clip on there, and then I'm going to sew those together and I'll come back and show you what to do next. So I've sewn those side pieces for both my main and my lining. Now something I didn't mention is that I tend to start at the bottom and sew toward the top of the bra. I find it easiest to keep my little dog ear lined up when I do that. So that your goal is that when you press that dog ear down, and for the outer front, you're going to be pressing it toward the center. And for the lining, you're going to be pressing it toward the side. Now be careful when pressing athletic wear fabrics. You don't want to do it on a super high like cotton setting on your machine. Sometimes I don't actually press it at all. I just finger press it. But what you're going to do is your goal is to kind of make sure that when you press it, that it matches up, that that side stays smooth. Okay? If not, no worries. Just trim off. I mean, if it's super off, you might want to do something about that and rip it out and try again. But if it's just a little bit, you can trim it. It's not going to make a big difference. Okay? So press it for the lining. Like I said, press it toward the side of the bra. I'll show you on the back. You can see the seam. On the lining, press the seam toward the side of the bra, and you're going to go through and you're going to top stitch. You know, a stretch stitch or a zigzag is a good idea here. And for the main bra, press it toward the center, okay? Center of the bra, and top stitch. All right? Now, by top stitching them in opposite directions, we're going to reduce the bulk so that when we place them right sides together and we sew, there's not going to be as much bulk there. All right, so go ahead and go over and top stitch, and I will do the same, and then I'll come back and show you our next step. So once you have your pieces top stitched, your outer front top stitched and your lining top stitched in opposite directions, you're going to do a couple of extra steps if you're planning on adding some of the optional features. So if you're not doing adjustable or nursing straps and you're not planning on doing removable cups, then you're done at this point. If you do want to do one of those options, then keep on watching. For the removable cup option, you're going to take your lining piece and you're going to hem the side of the lining, turn it to the wrong side of your lining, hem it by 1/4 inch. And this is where wash away Wonderwood tape comes in handy. It is 1/4 inch wide, so I just use that to hold that down, and then I'll top stitch on the right side of the lining to hem that. And then when you attach that to the back piece, you're only going to be anchoring it at the top of the bottom, so you'll end up with a nice hemmed little pocket that you can insert your cups in. Okay, if you don't need removable cups and you're fine with just putting the cups in there to stay, you can wait and we'll insert the cups before we sew on the band. All right, now if you are doing the adjustable strap or the nursing option, you should have 4 of these little rectangle pieces. And so what I want you to do is take a set, and you're going to do this twice for each set, and place them right sides together, and you're going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance along these long edges. Okay, and then you're going to turn that right side out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back and show you what that looks like. So I sewed it with the 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then I turned it right sides out so the top and the bottom are still open. And you're going to want to grab your slider. or the bottom of your nursing clip if you're doing the nursing option. And this is not the right size because I'm not actually doing this option, so I didn't get the right size slider. But if you had the right size slider and you were doing 3/4 inch slider, it would fit through here. Now, if you don't have a 3/4 inch slider, like I don't happen to, and you want to use that anyway because maybe that's all you could find, you can sew this piece with a larger seam allowance and then just angle this in a little bit more on either side. What you want to end up with is, once it's turned right sides out, you're going to thread it up through your slider or the bottom of your nursing clip, and you're going to sew it down. So you're going to thread the slider through here and sew it down. So this is a narrower one that I made just to show you. You're going to thread it through, and then using a zipper foot, you're going to sew it down like that. And then you're going to baste it right sides together with each top strap opening, okay, of your main front. So you're going to do it here and over here. All right, so if you used a narrower one, you're just going to take this edge in a little bit. And what you want to end up with is a 3/8 inch seam allowance along either side. So I moved my little slider here to 3/8. So I would want to trim it so that it was even with this pink slider, so that there was that much space on either side of the strap. If you have the 3/4 inch hooks or nursing clips or sliders that you need, then this will be a perfect fit, and you should end up with about 3/8 of an inch on either side, so that when you sew your main and your lining together, it'll be just right. So you're going to want to baste that together now, and then you're done for today. Tomorrow, I'll be continuing with you by posting a video that is specific to your option. So today, it was the same plan for all the options, and I gave you a little bit of extra instruction based on whether you were adding removable cups or adjustable straps or nursing clips, but other than that, everything was pretty much the same. Tomorrow, we're going to diverge a bit, and I'm going to be posting a separate video based on the different options that you're doing. So, be on the lookout for that. Please comment and let me know how you're progressing today. Let me know how it's going, and show me, what fabric you're using. It's always fun to see the color blocking and the different bras come together. So I'll see you back here tomorrow. Thanks for sewing along.